What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle. If you are new to the YouTube channel here, I primarily run a fantasy football focused channel here, and I do specialize in Packer content. So I'm going to continue to do Packer mock drafts throughout the, I guess, the next month or so. But in this one, this is my mock draft 2.0. We're going to be doing a trade with the Jets for Aaron Rodgers. We're going to get a second round pick this year and then maybe future stuff. But I did put out in my first mock draft 1.0. I gave the Packers the first round pick for the Jets this year. If you guys want to check that out, I did put a link in the description. So check that one out if you want. Again, this one's going to be, we're getting the Jets second round pick. And let's hop into a screen share and get things moving. I do want to just kind of recap real quick what I think the Packers are going to be looking at specifically in terms of needs for the draft. Obviously, we need help at wide receiver with just Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Samori Toure here. Offensive line, I think the starters are kind of locked in place. We do need more depth here. We could potentially draft a left tackle, right tackle here. We don't know about Bakhtiari's future long term. I do like Josh Neiman here, but we do need some interior offensive lineman help as well. We definitely need a tight end. Josiah DeGuara is fine. He's kind of more of a fullback move tight end. Tyler Davis probably coming back here. So we do need a good tight end here. I think we need a backup quarterback. I don't know if we're going to go in with Etling as our number 2. Maybe we grab a guy at the end of the draft. And then we do need some competition for running back 3. There's also potential for Aaron Jones to be headed elsewhere next year. So maybe we can look at A.J. Dillon's potential running mate next year. On the defensive side of the ball, I think this is pretty locked in for the most part as far as starters go. I would like to get some more help at the nose tackle position or defensive line. We do need more edge rushers. After Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary, you have Kingsley Ignagbare here, who's fine, but we do need another 3 or number 4 guy. We could get some help at inside linebacker as well. Cornerbacks are fine. Jair, Stokes, and Razul, we love that group. We did, sign Tarvarius Moore. We got Rudy Ford back. We got a couple other guys here, Darnell Savage, but maybe we need a starting safety. Not sure if Amos returned. So that's just kind of a quick recap of what we're going to be looking at. And let's get into it. I'm going to go over to PFF here. They have a really nice mock draft tool if you guys want to play around with it. And what I'm going to do here is let's do that trade here. Let's get the Jets on the board here. We're going to take pick number 43 from the Jets. And again, there could be maybe we get 2 second rounders out of this here. If we don't get the first round, I know a lot of people were kind of knocking on my 1.0 video saying we're not getting the 13th overall pick, but we don't know. It's too early in the game here to see what the compensation for Rodgers is going to be. So I'm going to give us a 43 overall this year, a second next year, and we'll send them Aaron Rodgers. And let's just hit offer trade. Trade accepted. Let's get this thing started. I'll go ahead and hit start here. So we have the 15th overall pick here. And my guys on the board, I think it's no question. If you guys have watched my content or have looked at my dynasty content for fantasy football, I'm all aboard Jackson Smith-Njigba. He fills a huge need for the Packers, and to me, he's the best wide receiver in this draft class. He primarily runs in the slot. And if you're looking at the Packers roster, again, they do like to move around Watson and Doubs, but Smith-Njigba is a plug-and-play. He probably has a chance to lead the Packers in receptions year 1 right out of the gate. And, I mean, you got guys like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, who we played with at Ohio State. They both say that he's better than them. And if there's a couple interviews and quotes on that. But either way, to me, this is a no-brainer. If Jackson Smith-Njigba's on the board, I want to run that pick in. Other picks that interest me, of course, I like Kalijah Kancey, a big defensive lineman that can, compete for a starting job right away. Brian Branch is an interesting safety here, but I don't know if I like getting safety first round. And then there's tight ends. Dalton Kincaid here from Utah. A little bit lower here on the list, though, is Michael Mayer, who a lot of people like as well. So we'll see if we can get a tight end to fall to us round 2. Otherwise, I got some other guys up my sleeve. But let's go ahead and lock in Jackson Smith-Njigba, the starting wide receiver here for the Green Bay Packers. And we'll move on to round 2. And we got a little bit of a wait. I could try and make trades here, but again, it's a mock draft. Like, I'm not trying to be perfect here. I just want to get the right picks in. And as we're up on the board here, we did miss on Jahmyr Gibbs fell, Josh Downs fell, Zay Flowers, Jalen Hyatt fell. So we did miss a little bit of a run on more receivers. Let's look at the tight ends and see. Our guy Darnell Washington is available, and we do have 2 picks here. Washington's interesting. He's got an ADP of 49.1. They like Luke Musgrave a lot on PFF as well, but I think getting a big target in Darnell Washington, he's a lot of fun. He's huge. Good combine test. He's got an 85.7 grade here. He didn't really do amazingly great at Georgia. They didn't really have to throw the ball too much. So I expect him to kind of just continue ascending upwards here. I would like to see him get more work just as a receiver, and I think the Packers could have a spot for him to be a starting reception tight end right away. And let's lock in Darnell Washington. And then we're back on the clock here, and now we can start to kind of build in some of our other needs. It does say, quarterback, tight end. I don't know why it says quarterback. We got rid of Rodgers. We have Love. We're fine. But we filled two big positions of need here at wide receiver and tight end. Now we need to find those edge rushers, those linebackers, some of those guys here. I'm just kind of taking a peek and seeing if there's any other positions that stick out to me. Let's go ahead and just look at some of these edge rushers here. From Kansas State, he's got a decent grade here, mostly lines up outside, but he does kind of move around. So I like the versatility here of Uzama. Maisie Smith from Michigan, about an 80 grade overall. And he kind of lines up, he's an interior defensive lineman, and he lines up mostly in the B gap, which is kind of over your tackles. A gap is more, above the center. So he's a guy that could help us as well here. And then BJ Ojulari here, primarily an outside edge rusher here from LSU. I have to be honest, I'm not loving a lot of the options for us at 45. I think there's going to be a huge drop off. You get another edge rusher here, or I guess a linebacker in Daiyan Henley here from Washington State. Let's see, Adebore. I don't know how to say that. Adebore. I don't know how to say that from Northwestern. But he lines up kind of all over the place. So he's just another versatile player that could be of interest to us here. We could look at a nice guard here, Steve Avila. Not a great grade, but he did line up 1,000 snaps at left guard. He's played center before. The Packers do value versatility quite a bit. We could get a TCU guard here. I mean, look at Jack Campbell from Iowa. Pretty solid grade from Jack Campbell. I know we have Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell, so I don't think this fills a huge need for us right away in the starting offense or the starting inside linebacker position. But you never know. And so with this pick, nothing really sticks out to me, guys. I think I'm just going to go ahead and collect one of the best edge rushers, or we could get Maisie Smith here from Michigan. I'm going to go ahead and just take Maisie Smith. And again, he had a decent grade here, but 80 overall. He only had one sack last year, one sack the year before. But again, he's an interior defensive lineman. We just kind of want him to get these hurries, these 19s and these 14s. And again, I mentioned getting interior defensive lineman was one of my concerns coming into the draft. So we'll punt here. Again, I'm trying not to be perfect here. I'm just trying to kind of show you guys who we might be looking at when we're up to pick. So we've locked in Smith-Njigba at wide receiver, Darnell Washington at tight end. We have a defensive lineman here from Michigan. And now we're up to pick here on 78. I really wanted Nick Herbig here from Wisconsin. So maybe we find a way to get him, on actual draft day. But now we're up to pick Tanner McKee. I like Nathaniel Dell. If they wanted to go back to the wide receiver Nathaniel Tank Dell is his nickname. He's a fun player. He's really small, but you can see productivity. Almost 1,400 yards last year, 1,300 yards the year before, 17 touchdowns, 12 touchdowns in 2021. Super, super versatile guy. You can see his pass snaps and then his slot snaps, 388, 190. I mean, after you have Smith-Njigba, Christian Watson, and then you have Romeo Doubs, don't really have a true number 4. I think Samori Toure is more of like a 5 special teamers. So I like Nathaniel Dell quite a bit here. Otherwise, let's look and see what kind of other players we could maybe be looking at. We're probably not going with a center. Cornerback doesn't really fill in big need for us. He'd probably be a 4th or 5th cornerback here. The edge rusher, Carl Brooks from the Bowling Green, though. This guy's highly productive. He had 12 sacks last year, 8 the year before. He lines up kind of all over the place here, outside, over tackle, gets some B gap and some A gap every now and then too. So I think I like Carl Brooks here, but man, I'm torn. That Nathaniel Tank Dell from Houston could be a really nice fit for the Packers in round 3. But we're going to go with Carl Brooks. We're going to get ourselves a number 3-4 edge rusher here from Bowling Green. And we'll move on into the 4th round. We have a bit of a wait here. We do have 1 4th round pick. I think we have a 5th round pick coming up, and then we don't have any 6th round picks, but we're up to pick here, pick number 116. On the board here, looking around, it has a top cornerback available, Dwayne McBride from UAB, top running back. I just want to take a peek and see what other RBs are available. Deuce Vaughn, Sean Tucker, Rashawn Johnson. These guys are kind of bangers. Let me see who else is available for running back. We don't need one, but man, round 4, there's some nice guys here. Deuce Vaughn's not bad. I like Kendra Miller more. But Sean Tucker and Rashawn Johnson are two of my favorites in this class. Let's look at the tight ends. Let me uncheck running back here. Luke Schoonmaker, he did meet with the Packers at the Combine. He's interesting. Zach Kuntz here from Old Dominion. I kind of want to get him with our next pick, so maybe we wait on that. Let's see. We do need linebacker. So Dorian Williams here has a decent grade, more of a box linebacker here. A lot of coverage snaps. Looks like a pretty sound grade overall here from PFF. So Dorian Williams on our list, round 4. Moro Ojomo from Texas. He has a good grade too. He's got a 90. So we could infuse even more defensive lineman talent to compete with Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt. Another edge rusher here, Isaiah McGuire. He's got a decent grade of over 80 here. A lot of outside reps as well. 7 sacks, 6 sacks the year before that. So if we want to go back to back with a edge rusher, I could totally see that happening. Let me see what else we can find. There's Schoonmaker. KJ Henry, another edge rusher from Clemson. 5 sacks and 5 sacks the last couple of years. He could be a nice rotational piece. But maybe we look around a little bit. Let's see if there's any. There's a lot of edge rushers available here. What about a safety here? Let's go to the safeties. Ronnie Hickman here from Ohio State. He's got an ADP of about 120. You got a Penn State safety here. Let's look at Jair Brown, about a 78.7 grade. Lines up a lot of places. You can see some slot reps, which I like here. I like the box. I like the deep. I wish it would tell me his interceptions total, but definitely interested in Jair Brown. And then Ronnie Hickman here, a much higher grade, and he lines up a lot of versatility as well. So maybe let's fill that position of need here. Again, I'm not sure if Adrian Amos is going to return to the Packers, so I do think looking for a safety makes a lot of sense. We could have looked for one earlier here, but I'll grab Ronnie from Ohio State, and let's move on into the 5th round. So far, I feel like we're doing pretty good with filling all our needs. Guys at the top of the list, Dwayne McBride still, Dorian Williams from Tulane, Ojomo. These guys are still available here. I do want to let's double look at safety, see who's still available here. Nobody really sticking out. Rashad Torrance, the second here. I do want to show you guys, there's a sleeper that I like at safety, which we can maybe get. I wish we had a 6th round pick because Jervaris Owens from Houston, PFF likes him a lot. He's at 82.5 grade, a lot of deep, a lot of box, some slot, highly productive player here at Houston the last couple seasons. So I don't mind him as like an end game safety. Let's go ahead and look at, we got to get Zach Kuntz on the team. I know the Packers do run a lot of 2 tight end sets here, but you already have Darnell Washington. But I just think adding another elite tight end and Zach Kuntz could be really, really good for the Packers. He doesn't have a great PFF grade, but he did test off the charts at the Combine. He had a perfect 10.0 in the RAS scale. So again, not a lot of production at Old Dominion, but this is a really, really good prospect for the tight end that could help us catch a lot of passes. And who knows, Kuntz and Darnell Washington, we could have kind of double tight ends. And I think Jordan Love with tight ends makes a lot of sense. He's a pretty good passer over the middle, quick outs and things like that. So we have 2 tight ends. Still need some more wide receiver help, but let me take a peek and see if we can find anybody here. Bryce Ford Wheaton goes deep. Jalen Marino Cropper's interesting. I like Puka Nacua from BYU. He's got a pretty solid grade here. A couple nice seasons, not a lot of touchdowns, but he is a pretty nice productive player that could kind of compete as our number 4, number 5 wide receiver. Let me see if I can find anybody else. I like Darius Davis. Let me just show you guys Bryce Ford Wheaton. So they don't have a great grade on him, but man, he's got some Mike Williams in his game. He's a big, tall, fast receiver. I think adding a big body could be a nice move for the Packers at this point of the draft. He's got an ADP of 166. Let's look at Marino Cropper here. The Packers have had some success drafting receivers from Penn State, and this guy here, basically 2,000 yards the last couple seasons, 5 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns. This could be really nice here. So let's go ahead and just lock in wide receiver, and it could be Cropper, it could be Bryce Ford Wheaton. Again, taking a big receiver at this point of the draft, I think makes a lot of sense for the Packers to kind of compete as their number 4, number 5. So we'll get Jalen Marino Cropper here from Fresno State. And then we have 4 picks left. So now I'm going to kind of plug in some offensive linemen, maybe a backup linebacker. We'll look and see if there's any QBs available. But again, I'm just trying to kind of plug in all the holes and make sure we get at least one player at all of our needs. A lot of people like Clayton Tune from Houston. I don't mind this pick. He's really smart. He had 40 passing touchdowns last year, 30 the year before. So let's just do that. Let's just land on Clayton Tune, bring him in. Seems like a smart guy that can, benefit from watching behind Jordan Love and learning from the Packers coaches. So there we go. Now let's look around. They got a linebacker up here, ADP of 235. I wouldn't mind looking at this. Mohamed Diabate. Not a great grade, but he does have a lot of box and some defensive line, some slot. Looks like he's kind of a versatile guy that could compete. So I'm open to that. And then I'm just trying to look and see if there's any. Drake Thomas from North Carolina State, NC State. Pretty solid grade from this one. So I think waiting on linebacker, just because we don't need a starter. We got Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell. We need a guy that can kind of compete for our number 3 backup duties and be a special teamer. So let's go ahead and lock in Drake Thomas from North Carolina State. And then again, I need some offensive linemen at the end here. So let's go ahead and look at offensive tackles. You got Old Dominion, Kansas, Oregon. Earl Bostic, let's see his grade. Not very good from PFF, but he's primarily a left tackle, has some experience at right tackle. Packers do love versatility. Nick Saldiveri here, primarily a right tackle, which could be a nice spot here for us to get. And then you have I'm not even going to try saying his name, from Oregon, but he's got a pretty nice grade too, and he's primarily a right tackle. So I think getting one of these right tackles, Saldiveri or the guy from Oregon here. Let's just look at Dalton Wagner real quick from Arkansas. Pretty good grade as well. 900 right tackle snaps. So I think it makes sense. Let's go ahead and grab one of these right tackles. And sure, I'll land on Dalton Wagner here from Arkansas. And then one more pick to go. We'll finish up with an interior offensive lineman just to kind of compete for backup guard duties. Anthony, you got some good guys here. Anthony Bradford from LSU. 65 grade here. Don't love that, but he's got some right guard and some left tackle experience. Alan Ali. Oh, I accidentally just took him from TCU. So I guess we'll just take that for what it's worth. But let's see what the final draft grade is. Gives us an A+ for Jackson Smith and Najigba. Darnell Washington, we get a C. We did kind of reach on him, and they do have him lower on their board. We did get an A for Maisie Smith from Michigan. Again, getting a defensive lineman, I think, is a priority to make sure we have enough bodies up front. Carl Brooks from Bowling Green seems to like that pick quite a bit here. Edge rusher for us. Ronnie Hickman from Ohio State. Safety, didn't really like that pick. It did like Zach Kuntz, though, A- here. And then we get an A for Jalen Marino Cropper, the receiver from Fresno State. An A+ for Clayton Tune from Houston. A- for Drake Thomas, NC State. And our final offensive lineman get some C's there. But overall, I think it's a good look at potentially filling the Packers' needs. So I'll continue to make mock drafts throughout the next month or so. And I'm not trying to be perfect here, guys. I'm just trying to share who the Packers could be looking at with each specific pick. So I'm just trying to widen it here. But either way, this was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Don't forget to like the video. That helps my my small channel grow. And subscribe if you're new. Again, I primarily do fantasy football content, but with the Packers being my favorite team, I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I've watched every single Packers game that I can remember since I was like 8 or 9 years old. So I'm highly in tune with what the Packers need and where we can be going. So again, thank you guys so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you in a future video. Peace.